Hello all, and welcome to the Daily HUD, your base camp for all esports news and digital entertainment and tech. I'm your host, Sierra.
And I am Dom. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, but if you want to know more about me, diggitydomthebomb.com. Hopefully we'll get some more of that later today. But hey, we're here to give you all the latest updates in all things gaming and esports
We're gonna
related
give it to you
right about now.
And if we miss some things, be sure to comment in the doobly-doo below, right?
Yes, hey, she used the word.
Doobly-doo, right?
Yeah.
First up, we'll be recapping the WoW Mythic Dungeon International Western Cup number 3 and talking about the upcoming Eastern Cup 3 taking place this weekend, right?
Yes, and then from there we will be recapping CSGO's IEM Sydney results from yesterday.
We'll be taking a look at the PUBG Kick-Off Cup going on in Europe.
We'll also be looking at Formula One esports and its soon-to-close Baku Qualifiers.
Looking towards Starcraft 2 GSL Code S that took place yesterday.
We'll also premiere the Paladins Premier League, the first time we're going to be talking about the Paladins League on this show.
That must be very exciting for you,
Yes.
Dom. Are you stoked, bro?
I am so stoked. Like, hang 10, man.
Afterwards, we'll be talking about the NBA 2K League and previewing our games and teams to watch over the next 3 days of its play.
Yeah, and then we're totally going to be talking about Overwatch. I'm not going to do that the whole time. The Overwatch League's Week 5, set to kick off on Thursday, fresh from their Dallas matches this past weekend.
Okay, we already talked a bit about the upcoming PUBG NPL set to return on May 4th, and we'll be previewing that some more later on this week. But I'm just wondering, what's the difference between the NPL and the PEL?
Well, we'll have to see who calls themselves the NPL, the National PUBG League. Which of the countries in the world is so confident in themselves to say that they are the National League?
The United States?
Yeah, the NPL, we'll take a look at that soon. For our international events, though, the PCL will also be seeing in South Korea. But we've still got more.
Yeah, we'll be talking about the upcoming E-League FIFA 2019 Cup, which is set to act as a qualifier for the 2019 FIFA E-World Cup. All you esports soccer fans, or as I like to call them, football enthusiasts, maybe you can't make a goal on the field, but the esports has got you covered.
Yeah, and enthusiasts, yes.
We will also give you a reminder that later this week we'll see the Dota 2 Paris Majors at Disneyland. This is the first time Dota 2 has been hosted outside of China. It will see the return of the top level Super Smash with the Ultimate Smash Ball 2019 set to clash on the 4th and 5th, acting as a qualifier to the Smash World Championships in June, set for Los Angeles.
Yeah.
May the 4th be with you.
Well, that's going to be this weekend. Of course, that's all our esports coverage. We still got some video game news to talk about. Afterwards, we're going to discuss the new Sonic the Hedgehog live action movie trailer because, oh my goodness, what is going on there?
Okay, let's turn back to Overwatch. As most of you already know, when you play the game, you are ranked. The top ranking being a Grandmaster. Overwatch the game wants to prevent from grouping only as a team of Grandmasters within the matchmaking algorithm, and because it becomes difficult to have a fair game when your opponent's team is all made up of all Grandmasters.
Of course, we'll be talking about those limitations a little bit later towards the end of our show, and finally, to close us out, we'll be looking at Riot Games, as we've been hearing rumblings of a potential employee walkout to protest private arbitration agreements that are being considered by the company for their alleged gender discrimination issues. So that is a big thing to talk about. We'll be getting into that a little bit later, but first, let's start getting into the esports news that we've got for today, starting off with that WoW Mythic Dungeon International 2019. Now, the Western Cup just closed out this past weekend. We saw Method EU versus Method NA in those grand finals. Method EU ultimately was victorious. Now, this is Method EU's third Western Cup victory in a row. They've never dropped a series, and they've only dropped 3 games in all 3 of these cups, nearly 30 games total, a 90% win rate.
Wow.
They also managed to take the world record second zero deaths Motherlode dungeon run, dropping only a single game to Abracadabra and only 2 games to Method NA in the last Western Spring Cup. In the Western region, Method EU currently leads at 420 points, Method NA at 300, Abracadabra at 240, 40, and finally 40K at 160. And those 4 teams will be advancing to the local area network finals later this year. In the Eastern region, Team D is at 240, Battle for Champ is at 240, But 4 at 120, Accompany at 120, then Black Mesa in 5th with Gordon Freeman at 100, Full Screened at 40, and Skyline and Sunset at 20 points apiece. Now, of the top 4 of the Eastern Cup will also be advancing to the LAN finals, and that Eastern Cup will take place this weekend as well. So we'll finally get our final teams from North America for that WoW Mythic International.
That'll be important to keep an eye on as we follow next week's coverage.
Yes, and from there we'll also turn towards CSGO. IEM Sydney is currently going on. And Sierra, why don't you walk us through some of those results from these games?
In Sydney, we have Group A, the lower bracket in their round 2. Mouse took on Renegades at a 2-0. Big versus MVP PK was 2-1. Group B in the upper bracket, round 2. Energy took 2-0 over FaZe. MIRB took 2-0 over Fnatic. Group A upper bracket, Team Liquid versus those ninjas in pajamas. Group A lowers, Mouse versus Big. Group B uppers, Energy versus MIBR. That's a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Who do you keep your eyes on for this
So
one?
the basic breakdown is Team Liquid is doing good, which is unsurprising considering their performance in the Blast Pro Miami just a short while ago and their recent performance in the ESL Pro League. This is a team that is still continuing to climb. I think another team that we have to keep our eyes on, though, is the Brazilian squad of MIBR. We saw them with an excellent performance at the Blast Pro Miami in the ESL Pro League. They also look like they're advancing to the next round. And now they're coming into the IEM Sydney with a lot of surprising energy. I think a lot after the fact that they were eliminated in Rio just a few weeks ago and are now swinging out, taking names off of some massive teams, taking names and games, and are set to advance to the playoff stage of IEM Sydney is like, is this suddenly a top tier team? Where did this come from? What changed to bring them this
so
high
much
up?
Force.
Exactly.
Maybe it's the energy of going to Australia, being able to go to Sydney and play your game professionally.
Yeah.
That's very exciting.
I mean, they should be accustomed to traveling. They were at Rio, they were at Miami for the Blast Pro, now they're at Sydney. Hopefully that shouldn't be affecting them too much. They should be accustomed to that. We did get a chance to speak to their coach Zeus at Blast Pro Miami, and we'll link that clip down in the description below. And he mentioned that the team is feeling good. Which is surprising considering before we spoke to him, they had just defeated Astralis, and before that they loast at Rio.
It's a lot of hot and cold with them.
Exactly.
Around.
They say they've been feeling good. If it's just a feeling thing, then that's great because you can synthetically create that feeling and then it becomes authentic over time. Fake it till you make it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. We've lost some teams in the lower brackets, but it's staying pretty solid in the uppers.
It certainly is.
They can jump for some of the teams if they get make a loss and end up in the bottom.
Once you drop down into lowers, you don't back advance into uppers.
Okay.
You just advance into playoffs, and it's the top 2 teams from uppers will move on into playoffs. First place gets high seed, or first place advances to semis, and I want to say second place in uppers gets high seed in quarters, and then from there you have your one single team from lowers gets low seed in quarters in the actual playoff bracket. So there are still lots and lots of games to be played to determine those final spots. And that's what makes IEM Sydney so entertaining because we have huge number of teams in this massive tournament.
And opportunities.
Exactly. And they're all best of 3s. So it's not just a single fluke game can't eliminate you like we saw in Blast Pro Miami.
Yes, like we saw in the Blast Pro. Moving on.
We're turning our attention towards the PEL, the Kick-Off Cup going on for PUBG in Europe.
Moving on to the PEL Esports results, we've got Group A starting us off in round 1 through 4. Group A standouts are Avenger, BJK, and Desperado, who are the top 3. Avenger has 3 top 4 finishers, placing 1st, 2nd, and 4th, plus a total of 24 kills.
Yeah, now Digital Athletics ended up getting 5th place with 21 kill points. They were standouts as well, but they only had 6 placement points overall. If they keep getting high kills and place better, they could be a team to watch, but that's only for rounds 1 through 4. Let's take a look at 5 through 8.
We still saw 4 more rounds of Group A early this morning. Avenger ended up dropping earlier in today's matches, dropped all the way to 6th overall.
Yeah, Desperado took 2 more first place finishes, bringing them up to 1st in the standings with a huge number of placement points and a decent number of kills in rounds 7 and 8 as well. But now turning our attention to Group B's first 4 rounds.
After 4 rounds in Group B, Team Liquid are in first with a first place finish with 43 points and 27 kills.
Yeah, only other 2 teams have 20 plus points. That's Team FaZe Clan and in second and Ents at 21. Astute fans might remember both Ents and Liquid qualifying from the PEL for the Face It Global Summit just a short while ago. So we are still seeing good performance from these top teams in this additional Kickoff Cup.
Impressive. Currently, the round 2 of Formula 1 Esports Qualifiers is ongoing. The target is to win the
Azerbaijan.
Yes,
Grand Prix driving the Mercedes W09 of Lewis Hamilton. Now, this is the second of 3 qualifying events, with another taking place May 5th through 19th, and then there will be a grand race-off on May 27th to 29th with the Pro Team Draft on July 27th. So, for you Formula 1 fans, there's still plenty of opportunities to qualify if the Mercedes isn't your car. We'll be seeing what that next, I believe it's the Catalunya, is the next qualifier that's going to be starting on the 5th with another 2 whole weeks to go.
But don't wait too long because it's actually July 17th.
Yes, that's where the draft is going to be. Still though, we now have got the GSL Code S Season 2 results from Group C that happened last night, and they weren't exactly surprising considering that's the group with Classic, who was second place against Maru in the most recent GSL Code S Cup just a few weeks ago.
And Maru tragically lost his place.
Yeah, that was a little bit earlier in the week.
Yeah.
But in this group, we did not see the upset. Classic went 2-0 in his group. I mean, he made it to the grand finals a little bit earlier and gave Maru a run for his money. And just because Maru's dropped so early in the tournament is no doubt to Classic's skills, because those were still some very high-level games of Starcraft. So that we got to see Classic maintain and continue the trend of performing well, perhaps with Maru out of the way, suddenly Classic can get his time to shine, go back to the finals and actually claim it this time.
Okay, well, we'll be keeping our eye on you, Classic.
Yeah.
Okay, Dom, I know you're excited about this one, the Paladins Premier League.
Yes, we've not talked about Paladins before. Some of you might remember Paladins as the quote-unquote Overwatch knockoff from a long time ago, but it has grown in a whole bunch of really big ways and has its own competitive league that will return on May 2nd and May 3rd. Now, Thursday in those games, we've got NIP Ninjas in Pajamas taking on Space Station Gaming, and then afterwards, Space Station Gaming against the Renegades. After that, we've got Team Envy versus the Pittsburgh Knights to close out that day, and on Friday, Navi will challenge Ninjas in Pajamas versus Virtus Pro against Kanga Esports. So again, this is exciting to see Paladins continue to grow in this way. It had such a stigma of being the Overwatch knockoff, but it has grown in such unique ways. The characters are starting to differentiate in some really, really powerful ways. We've also got the addition of mounts in that game, not to mention the differentiation of abilities allows for some very unique stuff. So we'll continue to be covering that as that goes on. And speaking of continuing coverage, let's take a look at the NBA 2K League, the games that are happening today.
Today, right now, the Hawks versus Mavs gaming, Timberwolves, go Minnesota, versus Celtics crossover, Net SGC versus Hawks Talion, T-Wolves again versus the Mavs, Pacers versus Magic Gaming, and the team to watch, I guess, would be the Mavs in both of their games, still at 5-0 in the standings. Though the Hawks are at 5th, they're only 2-1 overall.
Yeah, and now the Timberwolves, they should also be having a 1-1 day off of their 2 games. The Celtics are already at the bottom of the standings without a win, and then the T-Wolves have to play against the Mavs, which they're still 5-0. This should be an easy week for the Mavs. However, we'll also take a look at the Hawks' talent. They should get us a chance to show us their real stuff.
Is that a play off the Seahawks? I'm wondering.
Very well could be.
Yeah.
Again, they've got a tough opening day against the Mavs, and then what is a somewhat close match against Net SGC. And of course, we'll be bringing you those results as they close out later today. Yeah.
So keep yourself tuned in.
And again, those games are today, Thursday, Friday, so we'll keep you updated as they continue to roll along. It is exciting as we're getting further and further into the league to see more and more differentiation in the standings. Some of the teams have still only played 2 or 3 games, so we don't have a super clear picture of where they are, but I believe this week should really start to differentiate a lot more clearly in whether or not the Mavs are actually number one.
Where's the 49ers? We got to sift out the gold.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, they're in the league as well. I don't think they're doing that good, if I remember right. I don't think they're doing that good.
I didn't read their name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now we've got the Overwatch League.
Overwatch League. Fresh off in week 4, Dallas. Thursday's gaming, Dallas Fuel versus Florida Mayhem. We've got Philadelphia Fusion versus San Francisco Shock.
Yeah.
The Dallas Fuel are just above the cusp for the playoff stage at 6 of 8, and Florida Mayhem are 0-6, so this should be an easy win for them to help propel Dallas into the playoffs.
Yeah, and again, these are tomorrow's games. There are only 2 matches happening. Afterwards, the San Fran Shock are in second place at the league at the moment, though technically they're first in points differentials. This win would leap them over the Los Angeles Gladiators, not to mention the fact the Shock still haven't dropped or tied a single map. This team is unstoppable. Their opponents, Philly Fusion, are at 3-3 of their 6 games. So theoretically, this should be an easy game for the Shock. Philly Fusion are on the bottom side of the playoffs cutoff, just below. I want to say they're at maybe 10th or 12th of the total standings. If they win or get a map or even tie against the Shock, we might start including them in the conversation for whether or not they will be able to advance into playoffs, break into that top 8. I would love to see Fusion actually challenge the Shock, but we're expecting a pretty swift set.
All right. Upcoming tournaments, we've got League of Legends MSI play-ins.
Yeah, that's starting today. League of Legends is back. Mid-season invitational is here. The play-ins are starting off with their group stage today. Now we've got Group B happening tomorrow. We've got Det FM, Detonation Focus Me, Vegas Squadron, Mega Esports, and of course INTZ, which most of you should recognize. Group A, which is happening today, we've got Fengvu Buffalo, 1907 Fenerbahce Esports, of no relation to 1907 Fenerbahce. We've got the Bombers and of course Isurus Gaming, who some of you might remember from CSGO, and I want to say PUBG as well. With these games happening on May 1st and May 2nd, we'll also see some more games resuming on the 5th. The elimination stage for playoffs will be happening on the 6th and 7th. Now, for this tournament format, it's these 2 rounds of groups. The top team from each group will then return to play against Team Liquid, and I want to say the Flash Wolves, to advance into the finals. From there, the losers of those 2 games against Team Liquid and the Flash Wolves will play against each other for the final play-in seed to advance into the standard group stage, where they will be joining the big boys, the LCK, SK Telecom T1, the LPL's Invictus Gaming, and I want to say Europe's G2 Esports. All of that is going to be happening in the knockout and elimination stage after group stages later on in the month. I want to say around May 15th, May 17th. Of course, you can find all of that information at lolesports.com, along with a huge amount of content. If you don't know who you should be watching, who you should be excited for, lolesports.com has you covered. They've got so many articles breaking down the whole entire thing, and not to mention, the games are happening today. They are going to be super, super fun to watch, and they'll be playing throughout the course of today and tomorrow to get us prepared into that. So again, we're all super excited for how that's going to be going.
Perfect. I can't wait to look forward to it. Or I very much look forward to watching today.
Yes. And of course, all of this is to lead up for the $250,000 prize pool, and that's just the base prize pool. In-game, if you go right now and buy Conqueror Alistar, I want to say 25% of that purchase goes towards the prize pool.
Wow.
So when the prizes are deliberated out, it's not just, oh, you get 100,000 of the 250. It's you get 25% of the total prize pool in first place.
So
if you get second place, it's 15. Exactly.
Okay.
And it is guaranteed ranking all the way down to even 1% for the bottom place teams in play-ins. So even just for qualifying for play-ins, the minimum you can get is $25,000 for your team.
Well, that sounds like rent to me.
Stellar. Yeah, exactly. Rent for a lot of months. But hey, that's all of our esports news. We'll be reporting on that as it continues over the course of the week. Now we're going to turn our attention
I'm very excited about
gaming news.
Sonic the Hedgehog?
Yes.
Wow. New film. This will be fun to watch. I don't know. Did you see the trailer last night, Dom?
I did. It came out yesterday morning.
Oh.
And it's been about a day. It's sort of wishy-washy, timey-wimey stuff. I want to know what you think, because there's a lot to talk about that's going on in this trailer.
I always thought of Sonic the Hedgehog as a little bit more grimacing and kind of evil and scary.
Oh, interesting.
And
okay.
when I saw this, I didn't really, fear wasn't struck in my heart. I was a little bit like, oh, I want to snuggle up with him and hang out, maybe
have some cuddles.
Netflix and chill, for real.
With Sonic the Hedgehog.
So, yeah. What about you? What did you think of it? And Jim Carrey. I mean, I love Jim Carrey. Anything Jim Carrey does. Huge fan. He's insane.
I was the complete opposite. I played Sonic the Hedgehog as a kid. I played through the original games. I remember the water level, dun 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 dun, and the coins, and oh my god, I have so many memories.
Cheerios? No,
coins.
They're coins.
And getting the chance to see it adapted into a live-action film, awesome. Getting this film, not so awesome.
John's not a fan.
He has human teeth.
Yeah.
Why does he have human teeth?
He's like a small child.
He's a hedgehog.
Yeah, I know.
What is going on?
I wanted him to be a little bit more like badass.
Yeah, I mean, we've already
Not like a
seen
10-year-old
different
boy.
mock-ups, like where some of the virtual mock-ups that people have done online look more true to the Sonic character without the nose bridge, so that eyes are continuous,
together,
which is
what a
it's so
looks like.
iconic. Exactly, it's iconic to the character design, and I think that's where Paramount separated from their fan base.
Right.
They wanted to create something realistic
that people can relate
empathize
to,
with.
empathize
but
with.
in doing so, they alienated the core Sonic fans who always love to give shit about, like, is it actually two eyes, or is it one eye, or is it goggles?
Right,
nobody knows.
I thought it was
because
goggles.
he's had it for so long, and then they alienated that by giving him two separate eyes that kind of glow a little bit. Yeah, and human teeth. I don't know. It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a little off. I hope Jim Carrey brings it all together.
Yeah,
He's a really great actor, and I think I'll just be able to enjoy the movie because of his presence. That's
very important to bring up as well. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik is great. In the trailer that we've seen so far, he's already stealing the show just by being Jim Carrey.
Exactly.
He's going to be the guy to watch for most of this movie.
Of course.
I think we've already seen like the post-credits trailer thing, which is already kind of weird in and of itself. Like, Marvel has made post-trailer teasers so common that now we're putting post-trailers in trailers. Like, you watch the clip, the 2 minutes, then it's Sonic the Hedgehog coming to theaters eventually. And then afterwards, you see Jim Carrey as Robotnik being crazy. So it's another little sting at the end.
But we've been spending most our life living in the gangster's paradise.
Also, what is that song? Why does that song? What does that song have to do with Sonic the Hedgehog? Where does that fit in? Yeah, I think maybe some
They're
exec.
trying to make it cool, but then it's not really that cool.
Exactly.
He looks like a kid. I want him to be.
I don't know.
Like
some exec in a boardroom full of people said, "How do we connect with the kids of today? What is relevant?" And one guy was like, "Oh, Gangster's Paradise, that song from the 90s that hasn't been relevant for 20 years. Stick that in there, yeah." Maybe there's some sort of correlation between the year Gangster's Paradise came out and the year of the first like super popular Sonic game in the 90s. I don't know.
But there's really, they kind of went on two
we
tangents.
don't know why I don't know.
A lot to digest. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? I don't know. Let me know. Are they Cheerios? Are they coins? You let me know.
They're coins. And now we're turning our attention towards Overwatch, which in the new season has announced a new matchmaking limitation. There will no longer be allowed any Grandmaster stacking. So when you queue up, you can only have 1 or 2 Grandmasters on your team in the pre-lobby at any given time. So this is to prevent the idea that when you're at high elo, you're at 3,800, 3,900, you don't queue up into a game against 5 professional players or 6 professional players all playing together.
That makes sense. I mean, that keeps the scoreboard fair, at least.
Theoretically,
you don't want to step into a game against all Grandmasters.
Yes, and hopefully this should also do a little bit to affect queue times for super high level players, because once you get a handful of players at all Grandmasters, the only equal opponents are equally a full team of Grandmasters.
Right.
And if the game doesn't find that within a certain amount of time, assuming this is a standard ELO system, it starts to increase the range little by little until eventually you get a team at 3,500 instead of 4,000, and then there's a large skill gap between the two. Already the reaction has been largely positive from high-level players in Ranked and Overwatch. They're saying this should make it a little bit more easier to be competitive in these games.
Right, and to work your way up. and to create less of a gap between the top and the bottom teams.
The only concern that I think that the only concern that I think I have for this is if you are a full stack of Grandmasters, the only way you can play against another full stack of Grandmasters and get a really even challenge is in a custom game, which requires you to reach out and converse and practice.
So you're being kind of punished a little bit for being so good.
Kind of,
I see what you're saying.
But in that other vein, would you rather have 90% of the players feel better about how they're playing, or that it's not even 10%, it's probably like 1% or less of players
1%.
exactly have a little bit more pain. So very, very clearly they're balancing the ELO for the majority.
A balance is important, and I think in the future we might be able to see two
in balance.
We might be able to see two teams of Grandmasters battle it out and see a very intense game.
That
would be a possibility because there'll be more limited of possibility of that.
The Grandmasters are regular players, but again, we get to see that every week with the Overwatch League because most professional players are Grandmasters, so it sort of balances out in that way. Thanos is pretty happy about this. So
right on, we're moving on to Riot Games.
Yes, there have been rumblings of a potential employee walkout. Now, for those of you who have been familiar with Riot Games, Kotaku released a very in-depth article detailing gender discrimination and sexism at Riot last year. This is a really, really big issue. It's sort of really shaken up a whole bunch of games and developers within the industry, and the rumor has it that these individuals are attempting to sue for discrimination charges. However, by nature of their contract, these employees agreed to private arbitration within their contracts.
You know, when you work for a big company and they make you sign that form, you should read it because generally that's what it is.
And that's where I think the employee walkout comes from. Because private arbitration is considered common at these very, very large corporations and companies, when you get a problem that explodes in such a big way, it is beneficial to Riot Games to keep this hush-hush and not bring it to a public case and bring it to a judge. However, it is beneficial to the industry as a whole to see this publicized in an open court. And of course, then that encourages Riot Games and other developers to avoid these sorts of practices in the future.
Shining some light on a little bit of darkness to create some transparency, and hopefully, I wonder what the discrimination was in general, wage discrimination.
It's all detailed in the Kotaku article. You can probably just Google Riot Games discrimination and find it. It's very in-depth. I highly recommend reading it and getting caught up if you have not. Because Riot Games is saying, hey, in your contract when you worked with us, there was discrimination, or maybe they're not even saying that, bring it back into private arbitration, bring it back into closed doors to solve this conversation. And employees are unhappy about that because current employees are under those clauses as well. If Riot Games does not fix anything or change anything, they cannot go to a public court, which will have precedent. They do not have the protection of the law on their side. And that's where I think Riot Games employees are unhappy. So we hear these conversations of a potential walkout happening in protest to this. We've already seen Riot Games change their logo. They say they're turning over a new leaf, but then they try to force private arbitration on these discrimination cases. So take it with a grain of salt. We'll have to see.
Well, it's good to see big companies evolving. At least that's happening. This will be a forced evolution upon Riot Games.
Yeah, it certainly is. They've just announced their new champion, Yumi, which is supposed to be a very noob-targeted, friendly cat-based character. So they're still continuing to put out new content. It looks like the teams at the company are still largely happy with working there, but just some of these larger, overarching issues could be causing some problems. But still, that's it for our coverage for today. This has been the Esports channel. Be sure to give us a subscribe, like, and comments below. If you want to know more about what we're doing here at the Esports channel, you can also check us out on Twitch with twitch.tv/esports_channel.
Gotta watch our Twitch.
Yes,
our Twitch. We just got a hold of Mortal Kombat 11. And Grandma, if you're watching, don't watch. It's a little gory. It's a little gory. I mean, for me, well, she kind of likes it. It's creative, though. I mean, the thing is, it's not super. I mean, it's totally gorgeous, but it's not super realistic. Like the characters aren't like real people, so it's kind of fun to watch them gore it out. I'm still somebody who like closes my eyes in Reservoir Dogs even though they don't show anything.
Sure.
So I'm very squeamish, but with this, the creativity of these kills is incredible.
Yeah, and we'll be streaming that some more over the course of the week. And of course, we also want to know your best Star Wars Day memes and your own in-game clips. Send them down.
May the 4th be with you.
Yeah, send them down to us in the comments below. info@esportschannel.com. That link is going to be in the doobly-doo. But that's it for us.
Happy Hump Day.
Yeah,
From
it's
the
a good
Daily
Wednesday.
HUD. Thank you, everyone at Esports Channel.
Yeah.
And GG.
Yeah, have a good day.
GG.